Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Pros podcast by Investor Fuel, the nation's premier real estate mastermind. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show we have Jon Burgher. Jon went from being the maintenance man to the landlord to the bank, and today he has over 32 years mastering creative real estate finance. He's learned through the School of Hard Knocks and now mentors and entrepreneurs on how to reclaim their most valuable asset, their time, through strategic investing. Get ready to learn from a true industry veteran. Please welcome Jon Burgher. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were talking a little bit about how folks get into the real estate space before we hopped on the show here. So I always like to ask folks, how did you get into the real estate space? What was your first deal like?
I wanted to start getting some passive income, and we had a family friend that became my mentor and a partner after that. But I told him I wanted passive income, and he brought me a little triplex, and that's where the creative stuff started. It was an older couple that did a seller finance deal for me on a triplex. Bought the thing for about $62,000. First thing he did is taught me how to write a note properly with a first right of refusal. With that, about a year and a half, 2 years into it, the couple came to me and wanted to get their money out. So we took a $20,000 reduction and I went out and got a refinance on it. Turned around and got, now I'm in a basis about $42,000. Turned around and kept that for many, many years and ended up selling that property for about $215,000. So that was the very first deal. And we just kept growing the portfolio from there. And it was all done with creative. My mentor at the time, that was before YouTubes and the internet and all that kind of stuff. But he knew it, and he taught me how to do what they call sub-twos today. They didn't call that back then, as well as seller financing. And we used a lot of private money. So that's how it all got started.
At that time, when you met your mentor, was it divine intervention? Were you actively seeking out a way to get into the real estate space? How did you meet your mentor?
He actually was a good friend of my older sister's, and he was one of the major brokers right here in Phoenix. And that's how we met. And it was actually at a party at my sister's house, and we just got to talking. And then he just kind of took the reins and ran with it.
When I hear these stories, I think about how I was in the automotive space. I was working for a Nissan dealership in San Antonio, and I wanted to get into the real estate space. And there was so much information, so many different ways, cash for keys. I didn't even know what wholesaling was at the time. And I was so confused about what was real and what was not real. And so for me, my entry point was going to a RIA, which some people love RIA, some people don't. That's my entry point. So I'm going to say I love them. And I realized, okay, this is real, but I always tell folks, if you want to know how to get into the real estate space, just start asking. Just start asking. You'd be surprised someone's cousin, someone in your family, they have a rental property, they can tell you, they can connect you, they can connect the dot. In John's case, it was meeting someone at a party, and now he got his first deal, a triplex. Like, who would have thought that?
Yep.
So from there, scaling the business, were you continuing to do sub 2 deals at the time, or how were the deals being structured, and what was the next couple of years in the growth period like?
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Sure. So he kept bringing me deals, whether they were a house or a fourplex, triplex. So we ended up buying 4 more fourplexes pretty quickly, within about a year and a half of starting. And then he brought me a big portfolio of several fourplexes, and I didn't feel I had the capital to do stuff and actually run them properly. And he says, that's okay, you're making too much money, I want a piece of it. And so then my mentor became my partner, which was fantastic. We did a buy-sale agreement. He wasn't in for the daily income. He wanted the appreciation build on it. So we set up a partnership, and we just kept buying and buying and buying. At one point in time, we had, in just our combined portfolio, him and I, not my own, we had over 120 doors right in Mesa, Arizona.
Wow.
And I was the landlord, I was a maintenance boy, I did it all. And that was the hard knocks. And I learned from all that, because you didn't have the internet. And he was not a landlord at the time. He could find deals, desk deals, that kind of stuff, and taught me the creative side, but he was not in the rental space. And so we learned that from hard knocks and took it from there and just
And
kept
I
building.
know, there's an abundance of information, and I think you could Chat GPT could probably eliminate a lot of the coaching that may go on today. But back
Yeah.
then, I know they were selling CDs, cassettes, books. You
Yep.
would hear an infomercial on TV.
Yep.
And so, are you aware how your mentor learned creative finance before maybe that was even well known?
That I don't. I mean, I remember, I'm going to date myself, but I remember buying Carlton sheets years and years and years ago. And that was one of the first ones, no money out of pocket scenarios. I don't know how Dale learned it. I have no clue, other than just being a main broker here in Phoenix and doing deals all of his life. I don't know where he got it from.
So he was and I probably missed that part. He was a broker as well.
Yeah, so he worked for one of the largest real estate firms here in Phoenix for years and years, as well as taught at the real estate board for continuing education. So
Really?
yeah, he was
This is
very
really
involved
interesting.
in real
So,
estate.
believe it or not, kind of selfishly, divine intervention for me here. I'm talking to you because I actually just tested for my real estate license in the state of Texas this morning at 8 a.m. I was cramming for
Congrats.
that last night, and I
Nice.
passed. I passed.
Nice.
So,
Congrats. That's awesome.
thank you. I'm super glad because, to be honest, I did not think I was going to pass. I was talking to people last night, and they said, we're excited. We're for you. And I said, that's great. I'm hoping I pass. But
Yep.
I was blessed enough to pass. But my experience was going to the real estate school that I went in Fort Worth. Great school. No issues with the school. I would recommend it to other people. But the idea of wholesaling, the idea of creative finance, right now especially, has a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of real estate people, brokers, and it's really like come to a head with everything that's happened in the last year. It is almost like real estate agents view wholesalers as like their adversary, someone that's doing something unscrupulous. And I am a wholesaler. That's my background. That's what I've been doing for the last better part of 2 years to get into the business. And so when I hear that your mentor was an active creative financer and a broker. I'm thinking he really must have been a pioneer. I can't imagine there were that many people doing that in Arizona at the time.
I don't think there was, no. And, it really wasn't a buzz at that time until social media, and then social media made it the buzz.
Yeah.
But I mean, creative financing and what they call sub twos today have been going on for decades. We actually had a house we closed on and actually found an old contract that said sub two across the top from the 1930s. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah, I
actually just
mean,
a wrap, is all it is.
you think some of these contracts, you're exactly right. Some of these contracts are assumable in the contract. Like, and I don't want to give someone the wrong information here, but I'm fairly certain that many of these contracts uh, have it in their nature that they're assumable, and people just aren't aware of just all the different ways that you can creatively structure these deals. But pivoting a bit here, John, before we hopped on, you mentioned that you've uh, gotten out of being the landlord to now you're not doing that. And I think a lot of folks are asking, well, how can you not do that if you're getting these deals creatively? So walk us through that.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
So what my company does is we first put the thing under contract, and we try to buy it either subject to with an existing wrap, seller finance, a hybrid, or we use a lot of private money also and do cash deals. But then we put it in the portfolio. So that's the first thing we look at, is put it into my portfolio or one of my associates, one of their portfolios. When we do that, we're not landlords. We turn it into a lease with an option to purchase. And then we typically do a 5-year lease. And the reason why we do that is most of the people that come to us, they don't want to be a renter. They don't want to be, or they want to be a homeowner, but they can't get approved for whatever reason. So that's the people we work with. So it's a very niche market. And we usually do 5 years because it's usually credit. It usually takes a year or two to get your credit fixed. And then, of course, we have to get them set up because we're going to sell or finance it at the end and become their bank. We have to go through the SAFE Act or Dodd-Frank. And so Dodd-Frank has some certain requirements that they want to see. And that is, good credit for at least 2 years, not credit score, but just good score or good, no derogatories, no charge off, things like that. As well as they want to see 2 years of history of employment. So once we get that done, a lot of times that will take 3 to 5 years to do. At the end, we turn in the bank. We become the bank for them. And it's all about the mailbox money. So when it's a lease with an option, you have mailbox money. We actually get paid 7 different ways when we actually put a property in our portfolio. And then we turn around and do the seller financing at the end, become the bank, and still continue on with the mailbox money for another 10 to 30 years, depending on how long they stay at that house. So that's
Wow.
that's kind of the whole thing that we do in our office, is from start to finish.
So now I'm going to have some specific questions, and you don't have to give away all the game here, John. You can say, hey, I'm not going to talk about that. For folks that are interested, you got to contact me here. But, and please do that if you don't want to dive too deep down these rabbit
Yeah,
holes here.
no
But
problem.
Dodd-Frank, so this was, I just tested on this. This was created in what year? This is like are we talking like mid 2000s?
Yeah, I think it was earlier than that because it stemmed out of the 2008 era when
Uh-huh.
the real estate market went to crap. That's what caused it. I don't know when it actually got voted in as a law, but it was mid 2000s, 2010-ish, 2009. I don't know the exact date, but yeah,
And this
and it stops people from doing seller financing without getting approvals.
Right, right. So it's basically it's like rule taking in the reins on anyone who's lending money. My question is, I wasn't aware that people were being limited as far as seller financing because it's not. and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing a step here. It's not like they're being handed a lump sum of money all at once, or is it? No, right? It's they're making installment payments.
They're making installment payments. The biggest thing, what Dodd-Frank is all about is, and that's why they call it the SAFE Act, is you have to qualify the buyer that they can actually afford to live in that house. And
Okay.
what happened in 2008 is the banks and people were over leveraging the houses and, giving them more money than what the house was worth. And then they couldn't afford it, or they're putting them on arms, and the interest rate would go up to the point that they couldn't afford the payment. So
Yeah.
it's all about keeping the buyer safe.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So this strategy is really, and the way that you're going about it is really relying, and not relying, but it's capitalizing on the fact that there's these people who might not otherwise be able to get a loan through any other means. They're gonna need some time to build their credit up, and then when they do, they still have to qualify. And that's actually the better way to go about it, because then everything is better for them. Their credit's better. They've now qualified for a loan. They've gone through this process. So it's really a win-win for you and for them.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So talking a little bit about that process of finding these buyers, finding these homes. Right now, I'm imagining it's not as time intensive for you as it once was, but still wanting to grow and still wanting to expand. How are you finding these homes now, and how are you finding your buyers?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Sure. We actually run major PPC campaigns. We have 2 of them. And with that is where we find the sellers and take the homes down. Right now, we own in 15 different states, all landlord-friendly states. And so it's pretty vast marketing across those states and cities. And then as far as the tenant buyers that we're looking for, most of the time that's going to be through Zillow, through Facebook, stuff like that. Anywhere there's a rental market, and we're just advertising as a rent to own. And we have a big option fee. Our average option fee is about $15,000 that we get up front. Out of my whole portfolio, we actually have 2 portfolios, but on average, we make about $650 per door average on those. And so that's payday number 1, payday number 2. And that's what I live off of, is the mailbox money.
For those homes that you're putting on Zillow, I think a lot of people who do creative finance are not taking advantage of that. In many cases, because they're unaware of how to, or because they're thinking, well, the deed's not in my name. And in some cases, it could be. But has that always been the case for you? Have you always been putting your creative deals on the MLS?
Well, when we go to sell them, yes, because we're looking for renters. And we're actually looking for tenant buyers, not really renters, the tenant buyers. So tenant buyers look on Zillow and different websites for rentals in the area. So how we are different is it's a rent to own instead of just a straight rental. That's the difference.
Gotcha. And that ties in with the large option. I'm imagining there's a number of reasons and benefits for that as a seller. But one of the biggest ones that immediately comes to my mind as an outsider looking in is that they are invested in this. So if they didn't put so much money up front, maybe they could think, well, it's an option. I'm not obligated. I can take my good credit now and my 2 years of employment history and walk away, but you're going to lose your $15,000 option.
That is correct. Yep. And it's all about skin in the game, because if they have skin in the game, they're going to take care of the house. They're tenant buyers. They're not renters. They're actually pre-owners of the house. So they can go in and make improvements if they want to, paint, carpet, countertops. I had one guy who was putting a pool in. because it's their house. I mean, they're vested into this thing to the very end. Just like if you were going to go out and get a regular mortgage, you're going to take care of that house.
Mm. This may be a basic question, but it's something that came to my mind. So my listeners may be thinking the same thing. Is there a difference, and I might be getting my terminology wrong here, between a lease option and maybe like a lease purchase, where they're like forced to versus they have to? And why
Correct.
are you going for the option versus the lease purchase?
Because people run into life situations where they can't purchase it. And if you put them in that situation, you're also going to end the contract. So we put an option instead of the purchase in there. At the end of the 5 years, if you have a life event and they can't go ahead and exercise the option and purchase it with us being the bank, then we'll just extend it 1 year at a time until they can get to that point. So at the same time, you're only going to find maybe 25% are ever going to exercise their option. They're going to
Really?
have a life event where a divorce or a transfer because of job or whatever it might be. And so people just don't exercise their options, and that's their choice. If that happens, we just turn around and remarket the property, usually up the option fee, up the lease price, and up the purchase price on it, and do it all over again.
Do you also ever assist in any way with the credit restoration or point people in the right direction as far as that goes? And what does that look like for them?
Yeah, we are not credit people. However, because we've been doing it for so long, I can point them in the right direction to help them. We can also, advise them on, possibly who to go to. Actually, a lot of the people we talk to, they're already working with credit rebuilding companies to build their credit back up
Hmm.
because they're wanting to buy that house, but they have to get this done first. And it's not as hard to get through Dodd-Frank approval as it is a bank approval. So it gives them a
Right.
little bit more
Right.
latitude to get approved with us. Plus, we don't turn around and charge all the garbage fees and origination fees, discount points, all that kind of crap. So there are no real additional fees other than title work and prepaid insurance and taxes that they have to pay when they go to close on the house at the end of the option.
Now, is the nucleus of your properties in the Arizona area, or is it all over the country right now?
15 different states right now. I
And
mean,
so,
obviously we're heavy here in Phoenix and Tucson, but our prices went too high to make the rents work. And
yeah.
so we are big in Indiana, Ohio, Georgia, Kentucky, New Mexico, but basically 15 different states right now.
And so, expanding beyond Arizona, without physically being there, I'm thinking I want to one day be able to do this business remotely. I tell people, and I'm dead serious, I want to go move to a Latin American country. I want to speak Spanish every day. I want to be around bachata, and I want there to be no noise, regulations,
Yeah,
blaring Latin American music until 2 in the morning.
right.
But I want to be able to make American money. In Spanish, you would say el dinero americano rinde más larga en los países hispanohablantes. Um, and I've heard two different perspectives. Perspective number one is if you're in real estate and you're not, you know, from the game, meaning you haven't been doing this your whole life and you don't have tons of money and tons of mentors, that it's very, very unlikely that you're going to be able to do this remotely because your processes and people have to be bulletproof. That's one perspective. The other perspective that I've heard is if you find good people and you have good processes, it's actually more attainable than you think to be able to do it remotely. And I think you're a testament to that. Could you talk a little bit about just kind of the remote process and how that has worked for you?
Yeah, so the way we do it, we don't have boots on the ground. In one portfolio, if it's not in the Phoenix area or Tucson area, I've never seen the properties that I own. When we get them under contract, we have a process that we do a pre-market on them to make sure it's going to be in a good area to put a tenant buyer in. If we get good results from the pre-marketing before we ever close on the property, then we're going to go out and send a home inspector out there. We rely heavily on the home inspector. Go through that report. As long as the major stuff is all in good shape, I don't care about the cosmetic, then at that point, we'll go ahead and close on that property. When we go to sell the property to a tenant buyer, We usually have either worked with a realtor, work with the inspector. Sometimes we'll have a handyman in the area that we'll find to go do a little cleanup. They'll put lock boxes on for us. We do remote showings. So the tenants go in and look at it themselves. We have a process for all that. And then if they like it, then at that point, then we do the application, fill out the paperwork, and we actually do a Zoom call with them to go over all the paperwork at the end so they can actually see our faces, see that we're real, that kind of stuff. A lot of times they think there's scams out there, and
Right.
there's a lot of scams out there, but we have
Yeah.
enough credibility out there. We can have them talk to our attorneys, and they can look up our LLCs and see that, yes, I've been around this long and actually doing it for this long. So that's kind of the process, but I haven't seen most of our homes that we own.
It's always good to hear this feedback because I do get about a 50-50 split. I have people telling me I tried it and I ended up losing, my shirt on a flip because it was too far out. I didn't have my own crew. I've had people tell me, it's difficult for my strategy with short-term rentals, which I'm curious to get your perspective on that because I have my cleaning people that are around here and it was unreliable. And then you run into like heat cases with Airbnb and you're losing stars and now it can damage your reputation there.
Yeah.
Have you ever ventured into the short-term rental space with the Airbnbs? And if not, what's your perspective on that space?
I have not. I like the lease option side of it, where I do one contract and I typically have that tenant buyer for 3, 4, 5 years and then turn it into seller financing. So I'm dealing with one person. Airbnb, you can make some money on it if you run a good one, in my opinion, but it's a lot of work. I mean,
It is.
theoretically, you're writing a contract every day,
Yeah.
or every 5 days to keep this thing rented. You got to have a dang good maintenance crew and you got to have a dang good cleaning crew. And that's work to me.
Yeah.
After building up a certain portfolio and you have the mailbox coming in, these people aren't tenants. They're not calling you for their toilets and broken windows and lockouts and
Yeah.
termites and stuff like
They own
that.
it.
I never hear from them. They pay their lease payment once a month, either to me or to our servicing company. And so it's a matter that my money's working for me, whether I'm awake or asleep, and I'm not getting calls at 3 or 4 in the morning about crap that you would if you had an Airbnb, unless you had a good management company, but then the
Yeah.
management company is going to get it. And eventually it will circle back to you. So I just don't have those worries. And once you build up a certain portfolio, I mean, I had a gentleman here in our office that was here about 13 months. And after picking my brain and so forth, I allow these people to build their own portfolios here because I don't buy everything. I don't need to anymore. So he started building up his own portfolio and he was buying one a month, got up to about 8 properties, and it got to the point that okay, he's making $5,000-6,000 a month. He doesn't really need to be here anymore because I truly believe that you don't have to have $1 million to be a millionaire. You have
Mm.
to have enough cash flow coming in every single month to take care of your bottom line nut, your all your expenses. And if you have that, now you just bought back your time because you can never buy time back. You can
I
always
think
get money. So that's what
that's
I
something,
believe is wealth.
that's something that I haven't heard before, but I want to repeat, and I may butcher it, but you don't need $1 million to be a millionaire.
Oh,
Um, And with my personal mentor, I talk a lot about asset management, which is this phrase that he got from his background working for a finance company, and bringing that to real estate, which is the idea of like kind of the American way, if you will, is to get into a lot of consumer debt and flash and flashy, which is fun. It's awesome to drive a Corvette. At the same point in time, um, it can lead you down a path which is unforgiving.
yeah,
And so it's very, 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 very difficult to make a lot of money and not spend it. Because it's
it
in your
is.
mind, it's like, I'm making all this money, no one knows.
Well, if somebody were to really think about it, so I love the book Rich Dad Poor Dad because if you want to go out and drive that Corvette, as you say, go out and buy an asset with that money you're making, let that asset buy that Corvette for you. There's good liability and there's bad liability. Cars are bad liability. Houses are a good liability. And leverage that house. I mean, we do in my portfolio about every 6 months, I reanalyze it and I'll do what they call a DSCR loan, which the house stands on its own for its refinancing. but you can do cash out with that. So a lot of times I'll get cash out of 20, 30, $50,000 that you do not have to pay taxes on because it's loaned money. That's
Mm.
what you go buy the Corvette with.
Mm. Wow, I have a lot of questions about that. Um, wow, I may have to circle back with you after this,
That's fine.
um, but for folks who are hearing this, and we're talking about a lot of high level stuff here, and the avatar of our listener, if you will, is someone who's doing 50 plus deals a year, but we also have newcomers. So we're throwing a lot of terms at them, Dodd-Frank, sub to creative finance, talking about lease with an option to buy. Um, and for me, when I was an outsider, at looking in, I didn't even know the trajectory of a real estate career. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, all I wanted to do was have it like three deeds in my name and I'd be winning because I was selling cars and I was like, man, these homes are $400,000. Imagine having two of them. Like imagine actually having two. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Like how fast can I do that? I'm 30 now. I was, 20, 25 through 28 when I was selling cars
Sure.
and roughly. And now I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, you can break it down into bite-sized chunks, and you can actually extend that a little bit further. So for me, looking at like, well, what's the typical path of the real estate person? I see a lot of you start networking, you think
Yeah.
you learn, you get your first wholesale deal. From wholesale, you get bigger assignments. Maybe you do your first fix and flip. From fix and flip, you can do that for a while, and then you can transition into maybe a short-term rental, which is what a lot of people are doing with Airbnb. John's strategy, which is very unique, I would say, and great to learn about. And then people can go in quite a number of directions. I've heard, you could keep doing that forever, but I've heard a lot of people that are going into note
Mhm.
buying,
Mhm.
and hard money lending. Do you, John, feel like there's a typical pathway? Did you see your pathway from the beginning, or do you feel like it's different for everybody?
It's different for everybody. I mean, I've done a little bit of everything in the real estate, to the point that like I say, we had 120 some rentals just in Mesa, and those were true rentals. We sold those off. We got into developing. We'd buy up raw land, subdivide it, gate it, and we were building $1 million homes for a while.
Mm,
When '08 hit us, we got caught with two lots, moved on from there. That's when Dale and I actually split our partnership. I fell into assisted living homes because I wanted to build back up my portfolio because I wanted the net worth back. Because we'd sold a lot of it off with Dale and I. I still had my personal stuff that my wife and I had built. But we fell into assisted living homes here in Arizona because you couldn't buy a home here and rent it out and make money on it. But you
mm,
could with assisted living homes. So we had multiple assisted living homes, started building that portfolio up. And those are cash cows. They were until the health board changed some of the stuff that they did. We had a general manager that worked for us and she had to go out for back surgery, couldn't come back. So my wife got involved with the medical side. She didn't want to do that. So we sold that company, bought another big portfolio of homes down in Tucson. So I wouldn't go manage them. And those were all rentals. We turned them all into lease options. And then that's when my company actually started up and we started buying nationwide and just kept building another portfolio up. So I've been in and out of a lot of different things, but some of that from rentals of 120-ish to the assisted living homes. With assisted living homes, when I first got into it, you could get residential financing on them. The times changed and you could no longer get residential or you couldn't get commercial on them either because it was a residential house. So it was very unique. So you either had to have private money or you bought them with a lease option. And
mm.
that's where I really got into lease options. So then when I bought the big portfolio in Tucson, getting out of the assisted living, I went, okay, why do I need rentals and have a property manager or be a landlord? Let's turn all those into lease options. And that's where it all developed. So it all came little by little and just piecing it all together to make it all happen. And now everything I own is either lease option or I carry the note.
Wow. It was like one one big education.
Pretty
You,
much.
you really mapped it out for me. I when I we were first talking in the first 15 minutes here, I was thinking, wow, lease option is a very interesting strategy to do, and it makes a lot of sense. But it was almost like you stumbled upon it through the assisted living.
Kinda,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how I had to purchase the assisted living homes. And it's like, okay, let's just reverse engineer this and let's just sell all of our rentals off with lease option. And lease option had been out there, especially in the commercial industry, but or commercial space, but not necessarily residential. So I just put it together and we found things that worked. And yeah, we stumbled along the way. We feel that we got a really good process now, and there's not many people doing what we do. So it is kind of
No,
a niche.
it is
Um,
very, very niche. Yeah.
yeah, and it's especially when we find the tenant buyers that want to come in, they've never heard of stuff like this.
No,
There is some seller finance stuff out there, but not what we do for them.
definitely not. Definitely not. John, we are coming up on time here. Where can folks go to get a hold of you?
Pretty easy. Jon Burgher, so JONBURGHER.com. And I
That's simple
actually
enough.
coach this stuff now, which I never did. I used to coach it in my office, but now we have a full program together. We have a community that meets every Tuesday, and we have a course put together, but with all the paperwork. And that's the biggest thing is the paperwork. The course is very small. You're basically buying paperwork, but you have access to me if you ever get in that course and join community. All my students have my personal cell phone number, so I can help them through deals, because every deal we do is different, whether it be from the creative side or the lease option side. They have to be able to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, folks, if you're listening to this and you're wanting to go learn about creative deals, take a look at John's website. And I think just through this podcast alone, I have so many ways that I have to grow and things that I can do to learn, specifically with the lease option. I'm probably going to spend 15 minutes on ChatGPT and educate myself a little bit here.
The other
Um,
thing I do too is they can go on that website and just schedule a 30-minute free call with me,
mhm.
and just see if I can help them or not. Or if they have outside questions, I'll be more than happy to answer for them.
Well, you've heard it here, folks. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Pros podcast by Investor Fuel, the nation's premier real estate mastermind. I'm your host, Dylan Silver. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.